I always tend to feel like I wasn't really like a typical woman who are really craving for a child. It was my partner kind of pushing me for a long time to have a baby. And I didn't really feel like I had that maternal instinct. And the side that crave a lot of security just tell me that having a baby, it takes a lot of time, lots of energy and resources. And are those the things that I have while I still have so many things that I want to do setting up my firm? So I think initially I kind of got convinced with myself that it can be a very kind of equal share, like actually responsibility and an amount of work. And as we kind of go through the IVF, I just suddenly realized that being a woman is being a woman. It's never really going to be 50-50.
Hello and welcome to Make It Work, the bi-weekly podcast where we uncover inspiring stories of modern working mamas in Asia who have redefined their career paths whilst putting family first.
So hello and welcome to another episode of Make It Work. And today I have an interesting guest. This is Winnie Tam, who was originally based in Hong Kong and now calls London, UK her home. And she is the founder of 14 AM. It is an architecture and interior and design studio that is focused on making restorative places for city dwellers like myself and a lot of our listeners. So what was so interesting about Winnie is her approach to motherhood, which was initially fraught with quite a lot of fear, with identity loss, and something that I personally cannot resonate with, and how she integrated it with founding her studio. She also has so much to share about what it could look like, or what it's like to build a home alongside a growing baby and a toddler now. And she has tips for us as well, moms out there who are always trying to maximize the space of our homes. And in Singapore, at least, it's a tiny space, which I'm sure many of us identify with. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Winnie to our podcast.
Thank you very much for having me here. Yeah, looking forward to sharing my insight of my motherhood and also finding my studios. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Winnie. So in 2 minutes or less, can you tell us about your story and what you're doing today?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Winnie. I'm founder of 14 AM. It's an architecture and interior design studio. And like you say, we aim to create these restorative spaces for city dwellers, because I grew up in the city and I find it super pressurizing living in the city, like with all of the stress and everything. So I set up my practice in 2022. It's pretty much about a year into setting up my practice. Then I just jumped into another life-changing adventure, which is becoming a mother. So my son now is 17 months old, and there are a lot of juggling both roles and just lots of challenges and sleepless nights. But I actually find it really interesting how these two experiences nurture each other and enrich each other. So this background of kind of running a design practice while raising a toddler isn't easy at all, I would say, and isn't really something that you would expect from someone who's like designing the calm space. And yeah, but I think the truth behind kind of the facade is a bit like there are lots of like clients meeting, colliding with like a teething episode maybe, and I've kind of like a very plan person, and even though that you plan everything perfectly and then things just kind of go out and turn into chaotic with a child, the planning is kind of very different. Yeah, but I'm actually quite lucky. My partner supports me a lot more in this kind of balancing act in modern days, or when I'm working, then he's helping to look after as well. But he actually has a very full-time job, and he's a partnership manager at university, getting funding for medical research. And yeah, so it's pretty much kind of like a lot of communication between us, how to kind of make everything in-house work, including looking after baby. And yeah, so at 14 AM, we design these spaces that I want to help people to find calm in urban life. And these kind of daily challenges of both being an entrepreneur and being a mother, I think is actually make my understanding of why these peaceful spaces is so important, why it matters so much, and it really can help us to reset after facing kind of like the everyday challenge, and can get us to recharge and start again the next day.
Great. Yeah, so let's get into it, Winnie. You were in corporate life in the architecture line field of work. It was very fast-paced. You were working on exciting projects that were nominated for awards as well. And you decided to take a bit of a turn in your career. What made you do that?
Yeah, so that jump was kind of quite unexpected, but it turns out that it might be a little bit too comfortable for me. And I think deep down, I'm just really looking forward to setting my own agenda, and the big projects are all really good, but often it feels like you're a tiny little person in a team and you're not really making a very significant. It's hard to kind of understand what mark I have truly done in a way, because the machine is just so large. And yeah, so while setting up 14 a.m. it's a lot more, I feel like I have a calling almost, and it feels a lot more life fulfilling. And suddenly it instead of like feeling scared, actually I am feeling liberated to be able to do things that I really truly believe in.
Right. And right about the same time, you started thinking about starting your own family.
Yeah. Well, that was also, it's just that you can't really time things perfectly. I think initially we were wanting to, initially I didn't really want to have kids at all. So it took a lot of convincing from my partner's side, and he's very, very sure that he definitely wants children. And yeah, so we wanted to maybe have the child before, and then I can like take benefit of the company and having all of those good packages that come with being in a corporate world. And then I'll go and set up my practice after. But so we tried for a couple of years and it just didn't really happen. So it's kind of becoming the time of like, do I just keep waiting? And it turns out that I just don't want to. We wanted to carry on living our life and not thinking too much about the security side of it, just really follow our heart and do what feels right for us. And then the funny thing is, like, very soon after that, then we just decided to have the baby. So everything just kind of happened at the same time. But yeah.
That must have been really a bit of a chaotic time. How did you, get to new and uncharted path of starting your own business and being a baby?
Yeah, it was actually super chaotic, but that's something I kind of feel like I'm learning more about myself during the process. And I always think that I'm this sort of person who really have to have everything secure. And I said that I love planning. I plan everything to make sure that, okay, go according to that. I mean, I understand that the plan would change, but it's so important for me to plan. So I was the sort of person who really, really need the security. But it turns out that when it kind of throw me into the situation of challenges, I find it really exciting. And when you kind of let go of the fear, suddenly you understand more what time is, what our life is for, is really to live for these exciting moments of things that we truly want to do and not being held back by our fear. And most of the time, the fear is just not founded. Like, the fear is kind of something that hold us back of not doing certain things that we want. While if we just follow our heart, you just forget about that. And you realize that rather than focusing on the fear, there is much better thing to focus on. And so yeah, actually looking back, it is chaotic, but we really thoroughly enjoy it. And it made me a lot braver person and taught me how to fully enjoy my life.
In our conversations before today, you had talked about your initial struggle with, as you were starting to thread into motherhood. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I felt like for me it was a real struggle, and I always tend to feel like I wasn't really like a typical woman who are really craving for a child. And I guess that it was my partner kind of really, really pushing me for a long time to have a baby. And I didn't really feel like I had that maternal instinct, and the kind of the side that crave a lot of security just tell me that having a baby, it takes a lot of time, lots of energy and resources. And are those the things that I have while I still have so many things that I want to do, setting up my firm? And while being a mother is actually quite different from being a father in a way. So I think initially I kind of got convinced of myself that it can be a very kind of equal share, like 50-50 in like actually responsibility and the amount of work. And as we kind of go through the IVF, I just suddenly kind of realized that, being a woman is being a woman. It's never really going to be 50-50. There are things that we just have to do, and it's going to be us. And it's suddenly just kind of, it was so daunting on me that I'm going to lose my identity. Like, after I have a child, I'm no longer going to be me, because I'm going to be taking this new identity of being a mother. And then where does Winnie go? Like, what is going to happen to me? Yeah, so that part was quite difficult. And then together with, like, before the child's birth, it's a lot of decision that needs to be made, like how are you going to have your life when the child is there. And so I think I've chosen quite a few things that may be a lot more typical in Hong Kong, but a bit unusual in UK, like having a nanny as soon as my child is born so that I can still carry on running my practice. I opt for planned cesarean. even though I didn't. And I don't think that in the end, so that I can plan my timetable a lot better and have it a little bit more predictable. And I chose not to solely go on breastfeeding because, again, that really limits how much you are available. And yeah, so all of these choices, it almost kind of made me feel like I was a bad mother, that I'm not thinking only about my child. I'm also like thinking about how to keep my practice, and that kind of have a lot of question of like, am I really doing the right thing? But I have to say that it turned out quite magically, and my partner, I really need to thank him that he just keep saying that I'll be my own version of mother and everything else is okay. I don't really think about what other people might perceive. But then actually I turned out that this is not really just me who's feeling this way as well. And it's very much okay to just be your own version of what is suitable to you. And what is important is that it is suitable for both me and my partner. And then I really get to enjoy my family life. And my partner is always saying that if you're doing something that you think it might be right, but you're not happy, then you're not going to be a good mother because you're not a happy mother that way.
That really hit home about being your version of Sarah the mom, Winnie the mom. Because I think, we somehow have all these idealized versions of what a good mom looks like from growing up or society. And sometimes we are the only one of ourselves. And we have different inclinations and desires and ambitions as well. And that has been a huge learning for myself as well, to be at peace and to walk into the version of myself that no one has created and only I can create, and to be okay with it. That's the thing, to not compare, right? And especially for yourself, being in a Western culture and having grown up in the East and seeing what motherhood looks like in different places, I'm sure you feel that tension a lot to find your own version of being.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like in Hong Kong growing up, it's really usual for a mother to be working. But when I say working, it's like really actually full-time working. We take a few months maternity leave and then we go back to work. And it's kind of a bit more family oriented in a way that the grandparents would look after the kid a lot. And I mean, like my parents did offer to look after my kid for 3 years so that I can focus on working. And then but I thought that it was really shocking at the time. Like this time come back to Hong Kong visiting, I actually overheard like just on the bus that someone else was doing exactly the same thing. And I've been away from Hong Kong for so long that I didn't know that. Maybe like it's just really normal. And they just, well, it's just life, and we're there and we'll look after the grandchild. But in UK, that's just not the case at all with my partner. His mum is actually a university lecturer, got a very, very respectable job, but she took 10 years off looking after my partner and his brother. So yeah, I just kind of feel like that culturally is a lot more different. And in Hong Kong also we have help, and in the Western world it's not really, the idea of help is not very normal. So it's not really just motherhood, and also it's like taking care of the house and home. And it does kind of feel like a lot of, while you're working, there are a lot more to juggle that you can't quite kind of have to single mind and focus on.
Yeah, I think the concept is out differently in different places, and being in an Asian culture, the sense that there are a lot more maybe social support from friends, or more family, I would say, and maybe even like the structures that the government puts in place that support that. Well, if you were to go back in time, Winnie, would you do anything differently? Any regrets at all?
Yeah. I think the main regret is just having so much fear about it, so that I didn't really get to enjoy it thoroughly. And initially I was even like really afraid to tell my client that I'm pregnant. So it is a really wonderful news, but I just kind of felt really cautious to share what people think. Is that, is 14 a.m. going to be stopped running for a little while, or does it mean that they're going to have to put their project on hold, and all of those questions? And then how do I share this news with my client? So it's a lot of internal struggle. And it turns out that is just not true. And I remember one of my clients, when I finally told her, and she was so happy and she was jumping up and down with celebration of my gonna become a mother. So it was absolutely fine, but all of the fears just in me. So the biggest thing that I would change is just to let go of that fear and embrace myself fully and embrace my journey fully. And I guess the other thing is maybe with that fear that pushed me to another extreme, that I literally didn't get to have any maternity leave at all. I was having a meeting 2 days after giving birth in the hospital with someone who didn't even know that I've just given birth. And Yeah, but now I'm gonna be like, yeah, I should have at least taken some time to really fully enjoy it and just accept it and just to be more open and let go of the fear and really enjoy the journey.
I can imagine having a call with a client 2 days after giving birth. I mean, heads up to you, Winnie. But now that you know what you know, I guess if you have a second kid, you're going to give yourself a bit of a break.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of thinking like that first month, which is like really so precious. I still get to see my son growing up and it was still really great memory, but it would have been good to be able to let go of like the work stress for just that little while and be completely there. So yeah, that's definitely gonna be something that I won't do.
Yeah. I think what you said of being present and owning who you are in your different stage really resonates. It takes a while for maybe our minds to catch up with our bodies. Yeah, it's like the baby's out, but I don't feel any more motherly than I was the day before, right? Or the week before. And these things I think take time and we need to give ourselves a bit of that grace to grow and to
It's so true. It's kind of feel like no one really teaches you how to be a mother, right? You be in your career and you've got so much support and you learn how to be that and you work in your practice and it's like kind of step by step. But I do feel like being a mother, where do you learn that from? And you can't really learn that because also like your child is completely unique as well. It's not like that you can take tips from somewhere else and just do the same thing.
yeah, that's the beautiful part. So how has being a mom influenced your work and your career? And as I was thinking about it, I also thought it's interesting because being a parent is dealing with a lot of unknown and chaos and uncertainty. So how do you design for uncertainty?
Yeah. Actually, I find that my interest in how to design really changes. Also, after I've had my child, I've become a lot more interested in how to make a child friendly home. And because like quite a lot of the design before I have the child just don't really, it's not possible for me to understand what it is like. Now I'm kind of paying a lot more attention. Okay, this would be fine for the child. That won't be fine for the child. If you do this, then that would be dangerous. And also kind of how to keep your home pristine and nice. Yeah, but I just feel like there is a lot more planning. It needs a planning and understanding of how your family live, including how your child behave as well. But once you have that understanding, then the rest is actually fairly similar to the rest of the design process because we always say that we try to understand our client first, how they use the space, how they live, and then we can design the best for them. And there is always some kind of flexibility when it is not your kid and it's between maybe two partners and they would use the space differently and you still have to design that flexibility in the space. But with a child, it's just more and the child is not there to tell you what they want things to be. So you need to have that understanding, maybe like being a mum and have that understanding of being with a child, that what they exactly need. Then you can take in that bit of planning. And yeah, I used to think like having a child is just going to make the space. It's really hard to make a stylish space, but actually I find that's not really the case. And this planning and that how to make the space flexible for both adult and child is actually really fascinating.
How else has a new perspective opened up your possibilities of design in your work?
So I've taken one of the client, the project I did not long ago, and it's pretty much realizing that a city life with limited space and then having a child is a very kind of common theme. And looking back as well, I was designing homes for children and with kids in it, and I didn't really quite see it the same perspective. But now I see that a lot clearer. And then so in designing the space of something that's both suitable for adult and children, I feel that I've become a lot more aware of what we need to pay attention to and what little tips that I might have that as if being a mum that I can actually pass on to other clients who are in the same situations. Yeah, and also like the child grows up faster than us. Like as an adult, you kind of approach life pretty much the same 10 years, the next 10 years, but a child when they're the baby stage, especially, it's just, like they're constant rotating of how it needs to use the space. It's just having that understanding in the design that your space just needs to be a lot more adaptable because its change is a lot more rapid. But yeah, which really can allow us to dig deeper into how to make flexible space work.
And you started out as a one-woman show, and now 17, 18 months later, you're almost 4 people. So it seems like there's a huge demand for what you're doing at 14 a.m. to design spaces that work for people in all stages.
Yeah, I think that is like hugely desirable. Like city life is so hectic and Now, actually, well, a few things. First of all, like, we work so hard and we just really need somewhere that we can reset. Because if you don't get that moment of reset, then the next day you carry the stress that you had from the previous day and it just mounts up. And yeah, so I think everyone is really craving to have their, what we call the sanctuary that you can go back to and recharge and restore yourself. And the second thing is, after COVID, a lot of people spend a lot more time at home as well. So the quality of the space at home become a lot more important.
What is the common misconception about designing a home that you would like to debunk?
Well, the first thing is that when you have a child at home, you can no longer have a stylish home. That's definitely not true. And I've learned that both like professionally and also like from personal experience, that having a child doesn't really mean that you have to sacrifice design, and very much rejects that. You just need to design smarter and you can still have both of it. And I find that a well-designed space is not just that it's possible, it's actually necessary for a child. So that's something that I learned with my child when he was playing with toys initially. We haven't really got the space all set up just yet. And he's like seeing different toys in front of him, and he would just do 3 seconds in one toy, and then he would then see the other thing and want to play with the other toy. Got himself super confused, and it's just kind of jumping from one thing to another. And so then I kind of realized it's really just about how to make the space work for him, that he can then see one thing clearer. This is now the time to focus on doing this. I'm reading a book maybe, and then the next like 20 minutes, I'm doing another task. And not just that it is kind of neatly organized, but also is something that he learned how to use as well. After like very quick, and they learn so quickly, and now he's tidying things up because he knows where it belongs. He knows that, okay, well, once I finish playing with this is the home of this toys, and I will put it back. And so that's kind of at home. And what I realized just this weekend when he went to mentoring classes, that translates to outside activities as well. Then he realized that there are certain places for certain things, and when the teacher kind of finished letting them playing with the musical instrument, then he know that, okay, this is the station for all of the musical instrument, and I will put it there. And this is then the next time I know where to find it. And yeah, so I think that it really changes even how your child learns things by how you can place your home and how you design the space at home, because they spend so much time at home and they're really learning that.
It's interesting how you talk about using the space for a place to help teach order and to even help with focus of the child.
Yeah, so true. Because I think it's the same thing as well, like for humanoid weight. Because the type of design that I believe in is something that is not too stimulating. Because like the outside world, work and media, there are lots of things that really take our attention and like stimulate us a little bit too much. And I really truly believe, and we just need a space that it demands less on our sense, so that we can just be a little bit more relaxed and not constantly being alert all the time. And it's really, I feel that it's the same for my child as well. They can feel what the space is like when they're being stimulated all the time. And there are so many new things for them to be learning in the world already. They just kind of get like to wind up and become a little bit too tense of the stimulation. So we very much promote the use of natural material and not getting like too much stimulation in a space. You have focus point, but it's not like that everywhere is crying out for your attention.
So let's do a bit of a hands-on session today, Winnie. If I can put you in a hot seat here, I would love to share a case study of somebody's living room.
Yeah, fun.
Maybe it may be mine. But yeah, how about I do this. I'll share my screen with you of this living room somewhere in Singapore. And I'd love to have you bring me through your thought process on how you would think about redesigning, or if at all, this space.
Cool. Yeah. So I see a dining table in a corner. I see sofa in the living room, and I see the curtain. And behind the curtain is a window.
Balcony. Yeah.
And okay, just so that I understand the concept of the space a little bit. So I think that in the camera side is the entrance of the space, like the door. And then on their corridor on both left and right hand side. And so the left hand side, is that leading to bedrooms? And
yes.
And the right hand side, that would be the kitchen.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So this is like, when I kind of look at space, I very much like do a lot of zoning and layers. And so like this zone, we're doing certain things, and that zone, we're doing certain things. And there might be like a multitasking zone, but there are very much like designated zone. But this is kind of like dictated in a way like how you place your furniture as well. So, and also kind of the relationship of the space. But I think the flow already makes a lot of sense in the way that you've got your dining table there, and then immediately to the right, you're leading to the kitchen. So there is like a proximity between the kitchen and the dining table. And I think I'm presuming when your child is playing in the area, it would be in the living room side.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think like subconsciously, how you kind of block off that sofa area with this little shelf is already kind of like doing a separation of these two different zones. So that can allow the space for the kids to kind of play in that area safely. But you might not actually want your kid to kind of come around in the kitchen a lot. And so well, I suppose one thing that I immediately have the view of is that all of these like books and display will be good if it is kind of facing the other side rather than this side. So I'm imagining when you first walk into the space, this is kind of what you see. Then I'll probably turn this piece of furniture. It could even go a little bit higher, but kind of semi-open so that you don't block the view down. But then you can still, that this piece of like little divider, it can already be like a dual, maybe even more than two functions. So the one function is facing people coming into your home, so accepting them. So that will be like a welcome piece. Maybe you a little bit of space of putting some bit of flowers, and I don't know if there are like shoe cupboards somewhere already. So that is kind of facing off like accepting people, welcoming people. And on the other side, especially on the lower space, then that could be where your child have all of his books that it's easy for him to reach to. Then that goes with his playing and reading, and maybe that can actually combine with the sofa a little bit more. Then he literally just grab a book and sit on the sofa and read. That becomes kind of his reading space. And on the higher shelves, the places that he can't reach, then it's something kind of more for adults. But probably because it's dividing the two spaces, it'll be a little bit more transparent as well. So that one little piece of thing has already got kind of three purpose just because it's facing different zones and adding all those different layers to it.
Interesting. Okay. The layering on the welcome message as well as indicating to your child that this is your zone, but so putting it so back to back.
Yeah. And we do a lot of kind of like hidden storage as well. So like in the front, there is a lot of like display things that you want to show. And then also like these things will always need storage. And then when you kind of open up behind, there is like kind of a whole different world. So what immediately comes to mind is quite often like the TV as well is becoming kind of like a really distracting item. So lots of clients really like to have the flexibility to kind of zone it off. So when you kind of want to feel like that you're not being distracted by electronics and things, that you can actually like shut it off and have like a screen-free space. And yeah, so these kind of little key joinery in the house I often find very, very, very interesting. And the other way of zoning it is like you're doing something similar as well. You put a rug in the living room. So that's kind of quite typical for a child as well, when they kind of see a certain area that you mark off. Maybe this is where I sit down more comfortably and to play with. And yeah, so sometimes even like kind of a different type of flooring or putting the rug. But I think we pay quite a lot of attention on like kind of where the boundary is and how you kind of zone the space, and it is quite interesting. It would influence how you use the space.
Yeah. Well, anything else over here before we maybe go into a few more like concepts that you deploy?
Yeah, I think the other thing probably is like a transition or threshold that are going into the bedroom, and that probably is an other things of different zoning and layers. And that also we kind of focus a bit more on lighting and kind of how you kind of create active zones, like rest zones. So maybe like the dining room and living room are the more active zones, and you've got different set of lightings. But when you kind of go through the corridor to go to sleep and rest, then it's got like a total different atmosphere. And you would sometimes we even kind of use different color of light, like some warmer light that allow your eyes to and unwind and be ready to rest. And while in the active space that you want, you need a lot better light for even like reading. You actually need whiter light to be able to read easier.
Well, thank you so much for giving us a taste of how you think about zones and layers and partitioning in different ways of using a space. I think that was really helpful and give me some thought. So actually, if listeners, you found what we just remotely interesting, do consider joining Winnie and her team on a Designer Space 101, where she and her team have condensed their years of experience in architecture and interior design to provide you the tools and even the pitfalls, together with a bunch of worksheets and live case studies for you to work on and understand what it could look like to design your place.
Yeah. This idea kind of very much coming from some clients coming over to me and they're using some services and then sometimes these design services that we have out there is kind of quite chop off into different pieces and not really thinking about a holistic process. We talk about like brief and how to put in your budget together and timing together so that we can guide our clients from the very beginning what a potential pitfall is, and then we can go on this journey of designing some place together. So it's a pre-recording course so that you can listen to it whenever you want to. And there are worksheets and templates that we have, which is something that we've already developed, and we use it to our own clients as well, and to help you to really kind of put the design together. Then there's the Q&A as well, so that you can talk to the cohorts about kind of the experiences of going through those worksheets, and I can be there to answer questions. And yeah, I very much want to be there to guide our client when they're doing their journey themselves. And so as you know what to look out for and what to focus on, and then it's like a lot less risky going on this journey on your own.
Wonderful. Yeah. So if you're interested in finding out more, please check out the show notes for a special discount as well for listeners of Make It Work, and get a taste of Winnie and her 14 a.m. team. Yeah, and the work that they do.
Thank you.
As we start to wrap up, what is one thing you would like listeners to take away from your story?
I think the main thing that running your business and being a mother, both of those, what I really learned that is there's no right way to do that, and we always kind of create our own path. But what I really now believe in is just stay true to who you are and fully enjoy your journey, enjoy being yourself. And so much like I was really worried about all of the choices that I'm making, even though that I knew that I wanted, but I'm always worried about how other people would think of it. Is that fitting into the culture where I'm in? But now 17 months in, I can't be happier. This is something that I know that I need. So now I'm getting to a stage that I'm fully embracing it. There is no hiding required. I don't need to not tell people certain things. This is just who I am. I embrace it. It works for me. And no one knows better than you what works for you. So I think that's really the key message. Like, no need to follow the crowd and just be who you are and enjoy it.
I love that. I recently learned about the maternal wall bias, that it's basically that a woman after she becomes a mom might be less capable or less productive at work. And I realized that actually the bias, more often than not, that the woman is the one who buys into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's something that I realized I had to confront. And I think only with hindsight we realized that you actually, you were your worst enemy in that.
Yeah. So true. Sometimes the fears really dictate who you're going to be, and you become something that you kind of were afraid of. And while being able to let go of that just kind of give you the complete freedom, and you realize that there was a lot less boundary than you thought.
And what would you hope your child learns from you, watching you juggle your work and motherhood?
So being true to himself and being who he is, that's definitely something that I want him to be able to do, and not have all of those worry. And the other thing is I chose my son's Chinese name, Shan, which means kindness. And for me, being kind, being considerate, kind of all of the quality that if I wish that he can have, this is the one quality that I really, really want for him. So I hope that by him kind of observing how I step into the motherhood journey and also running my business at the same time, and my communication with my partner, that he learns how we're putting care in things, putting care to him, putting care to my client, putting understanding in things. So be a kind and considerate person. Also, another thing is like the success of professional achievement is not just work. It's really this harmony between work and your personal life, your family, because home is kind of like the family as well. It gives you energy to then go back and do your professional world. Again, it's actually a cycle that it kind of feed into each other and balance each other. So I hope that he get to learn that and find his balance in his future life as well between work and family.
I have a signature question for you, Winnie. Can women have it all?
Yeah, I love this question actually. Probably what comes to mind is what that all means, and because it feels like that might be like a universal all of like what having all is like. But I think from my experience, that is really more looking inward and understanding what all is to me. And yeah, so for my journey of like running 14 a.m. and being a mother, I think that yes, my practice is growing a little bit slower, but I think for lots of people, sometimes like my first staff just started as my son was born, it's in the same month. And so we can still grow together. It's a little bit slower. And of course, I didn't get all the time to be with my son as if I had taken like a 1 year maternity leave. But I was there for all of the wonderful moments. And I don't really feel like that I'm missing out because it's a balance. And I look at like the joy on his face when he's mastering a new skill, or the joy on my client's face when I'm delivering a project to them. And it's those moments that I feel like that's actually the version of all, to me, a combination of both of these. So yeah, I think when you define the what all means to you is definitely possible. Like we just need to be creative to finding a way of how to make this work.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think this really ties in with how we started the conversation about you defining your own version of Winnie the mom. So defining your own all.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't really think about it that way. Yeah, totally.
This has been such a delight to have this conversation with you, Winnie. I'm wishing you all the best for 14 a.m. And I hope to see you around and see the growth of your company from afar.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me again, Sarah.
Thank you for listening to Make It Work, where we uncover inspiring stories of modern working mamas in Asia who have redefined their careers whilst putting family first. Please help others discover the show by leaving a review and rating on wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok. Meanwhile, here's to you, making it work.